All right, picture this. You've poured every ounce of your heart, every dime you've scraped together into building your husband's dream, a dream you believed in just as much as he did. You're thinking, this is it, we're a team, we're unstoppable. And then out of nowhere, he rips it all away, kicks you to the curb like yesterday's leftovers, and something dark, something wild steps in to settle the score. That's the story we're diving into today, and trust me, it's a roller coaster you won't see coming. Meet Lydia. She's 29, a badass chef living in New Orleans, where the air's thick with humidity and the streets hum with jazz and spice. She's got this fire in her, the kind that turns a gumbo into a masterpiece and makes people line up for her food. Life's good, chaotic in that beautiful NOLA way, until she meets Ethan. He's 34, a bartender with a smile that could melt butter and a dream bigger than the Mississippi itself, to open his own restaurant. When they lock eyes at a food festival, it's like the universe hits pause, just the two of them, the clatter of plates fading into the background. Now here's the hook. What would you do if the person you loved most, the one you'd sacrifice everything for, turned around and stabbed you in the back, and the whole world seemed to know it but you? That's where Lydia's headed, and it's not just betrayal waiting for her. There's something else, something eerie, something that smells like revenge served ice cold. This isn't just a story about a broken heart. It's about what happens when the universe decides it's had enough. So, grab a drink, settle in, because we're about to unravel a tale of love, deceit, and a curse that hits harder than a hurricane. Ready? Let's go back to where it all started. So, let's rewind to where it all felt like a dream, the kind you don't want to wake up from. It's a sticky summer night in New Orleans, and Lydia's working the line at this little hole-in-the-wall joint off Frenchman Street. She's 29, got sweat beading on her forehead from the heat of the stove, but she's in her element, flipping shrimp, stirring roux, making magic with every plate. The place is buzzing, music spilling in from the street when this guy walks up to the counter. Ethan, 34, tall and lean, with dark hair that flops into his eyes and a grin that says he knows he's trouble. He's a bartender at a jazz club down the block, and he's there for a late-night pull boy. But the way he leans in, asking her about the specials with that low, easy drawl, yeah, it's not just the food he's after. They hit it off fast, like fireworks on the 4th fast. Ethan's got this charm. He's not loud or pushy, just smooth, like he's got all the time in the world to win her over. Their first dates at the Bayou St. John Food Fest. Nothing fancy, just the two of them wandering through stalls, sharing beignets under string lights. He spins her into a dance right there on the grass, the band playing some old Creole tune, and Lydia's laughing, her hair catching the breeze off the water. He tells her about his big dream, a restaurant of his own, something to put his name on, a place where New Orleans could taste his story. She's hooked, not just on him, but on the idea of building something together. A year later, they're married. It's a small wedding, nothing over the top, just a sunset ceremony by the Mississippi. Her in a simple white dress, him in a linen shirt that's already wrinkled from hugging everyone. Lydia's got no family left to speak of, just a few chef buddies who cheer loud enough to make up for it. Ethan's crew, though, they're a whole different story. His mom, Beatrice, is this tiny woman with a laugh that fills a room, always stirring a pot of gumbo that smells like heaven. His dad, Roland, is quieter, a retired carpenter with hands rough as sandpaper, but a soft spot for Lydia. Then there's Sophie, Ethan's little sister, 22 and full of energy, always dragging Lydia into dance-offs at family cookouts. They take her in like she's one of their own. Sunday dinners at their big, creaky house in the Garden District, plates piled high with jambalaya, everyone talking over each other. It's loud, messy, perfect. Life settles into this sweet rhythm. Lydia's climbing the ranks at her restaurant, dreaming up dishes that get her name whispered around town. Ethan's still slinging drinks, but he's always sketching ideas for Bayou Bliss. That's what he wants to call his place. They rent a little shotgun house in the Marini, paint peeling off the walls, but it's theirs. They adopt a scruffy black cat named Luna, who curls up between them on the couch while they talk about the future. It's not all roses. Ethan's got this habit of dodging money talk, brushing it off with a kiss whenever Lydia asks about savings or plans. And his family? They've got this vibe, nice cars parked out front, fancy clothes, but Beatrice is always joking about being broke but blessed. Lydia notices the mail piling up unopened on their counter, the way Roland tenses when the phone rings, but she lets it slide. Love does that to you. Paints over the cracks with hope. Looking back, there were signs. Little ones, sure, but they were there. Like how Ethan'd get quiet when she'd mention buying a house someday, or how Sophie'd change the subject if college tuition came up. The family lived big. Too big, Lydia'd think sometimes, watching Beatrice pull out a new designer purse at dinner. But she'd shake it off. Ethan was her rock, her partner. When he'd crawl into bed after a late shift, wrapping his arms around her and whispering, "We're gonna make it, Liddy." She believed him. Every word. They were a team, right? Building something real. And for a while it felt like nothing could touch them. Not money, not doubt, nothing. The air smelled like magnolias and possibility, and Lydia thought she'd found her forever. But forever's a funny thing in a city like New Orleans. It's got a way of hiding shadows under all that light, waiting for the right moment to creep out. And for Lydia and Ethan, that moment was coming faster than she could have ever guessed. Things were good for a while, maybe too good, looking back. Lydia and Ethan had their little world in that ramshackle Marini house, Luna purring on the windowsill, the sound of jazz drifting in from the street. Lydia was killing it at work. Her crab étouffée landed her a local food award, and she was stashing away cash, dreaming of bigger things. Ethan was still behind the bar, charming tips out of tourists, but his sketches for Bayou Bliss were piling up on the kitchen table. Life felt like it was building towards something until one night, it all cracked open. It was a muggy Tuesday, the kind where the air sticks to your skin and thunder rumbles in the distance. Lydia got home late from a double shift, her apron still dusted with flour, expecting to find Ethan sprawled on the couch with a beer. Instead, he's at the table, head in his hands, the room dark except for a flickering bulb overhead. Papers are scattered everywhere, bills, notices, stuff stamped with red ink that screams trouble. Luna's hiding under the couch like she knows something's off. Lydia drops her bag, heart sinking. "Ethan? What's wrong?" He looks up, and it's like she's seeing a stranger. His eyes are red, his jaw tight. "I've been trying to fix it," he says, voice breaking. "I didn't want you to know." She sits, bracing herself, and he spills it all. His family's drowning in debt, 200 grand, racked up from some half-baked construction deal Roland sank their savings into years back. The house in the Garden District, weeks from foreclosure. Sophie's college fund, wiped out to pay off loan sharks who don't mess around. Ethan's been juggling side gigs, begging banks for extensions, but it's a house of cards and it's crashing down now. "They're gonna lose everything," Lyd, he says, tears streaking his face. Mom's heart's bad already. Dad won't survive the shame. I'm the oldest. It's on me. Lydia's head spins. $200,000? She knew they lived flashy, but this... It's a gut punch. Part of her wants to yell, how could he hide this? How could they let it get this bad? But then she sees him, trembling, broken, and her heart softens. She loves him, loves Beatrice's gumbo, Roland's quiet nods, Sophie's dumb dance moves. They're her family now, too. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She whispers. Ethan shrugs, defeated. I thought I could handle it. Then it got so big I was scared you'd run. She doesn't sleep that night, just sits on the porch staring at the streetlights, Luna curled up beside her. She's got money, $220,000, scraped together from that award, years of overtime, a small inheritance from her aunt who passed last year. It's her safety net, her ticket to a future, maybe a house, kids, her own kitchen someday. Handing it over means starting from scratch. She calls her friend Tara, another chef, meets her for coffee at Café du Monde the next morning. Tara's blunt. You sure about this, girl? That's everything you've got. What if he screws you? Lydia sips her chicory, staring at the powdered sugar on her fingers. He won't, she says, but it's more hope than certainty. For 3 days she's a wreck. Barely eats, just paces the house, weighing it all. Ethan's a mess, too. On the phone with creditors, voice cracking as he begs for time. She catches him checking Beatrice's blood pressure pills, sees the worry carving lines into his face. By Friday, she can't take it anymore. She loves him, damn it, loves them. She logs into her bank account, hands shaking, and transfers the money, every cent, to fund Bayou Bliss, a restaurant to save them all. When she shows Ethan the confirmation, he drops to his knees, hugging her waist, sobbing into her shirt. I'll pay you back, Lyd. Every dollar. This is our fresh start, I swear it. She believes him. Has to. The next day, they're breaking ground on an old storefront in the quarter, exposed brick, big windows, a spot that screams New Orleans. Beatrice hugs her so tight she can't breathe, whispering, You're our angel. Roland toasts her with cheap wine, eyes wet. Sophie brings her a beignet with thank you scrawled in chocolate. It feels right. Like she's not just saving a house, but a whole family, for the first time in days. Ethan smiles, that old, easy grin, and Lydia thinks maybe, just maybe, this gamble's gonna pay off. But New Orleans has a way of keeping secrets, and some debts, they don't stay buried. So, Bayou Bliss comes to life, and man does it hit the ground running. Picture this, a cozy spot in the French Quarter, all brick walls and flickering lanterns, the smell of Lydia's crawfish bisque mixing with Ethan's bourbon cocktails. It's barely been a month since they opened, and the place is packed, locals elbowing in with tourists, jazz spilling out the open doors. Lydia's in the kitchen, her hair tied back, barking orders like a general, turning out plates that have people moaning with every bite. Ethan's out front, working the room, that charm of his pulling in regulars like moths to a flame. They're a power couple, or so it seems. Her food, his vision, a dream stitched together with her $220,000. The buzz spreads fast. Food blogs start raving about Lydia's dishes, her jambalaya gets a shout-out in Nola Eats, and some big-shot critic calls her cornbread a revelation. Ethan's no slouch either. He's got the bar hummin', mixing drinks with names like Swamp Fever that folks can't get enough of. Money's rolling in, enough to pay off the last of Roland's creditors and keep the Garden District house safe. Beatrice throws a party to celebrate. The whole family crammed into their backyard with string lights and a pot of gumbo big enough to feed half the block. She grabs Lydia's face, kissing her cheek, saying, "You saved us, Chair. You're a blessing." Roland, who barely talks, pulls her aside to press a carved wooden spoon into her hands, a quiet thank you. Sophie's bouncing around, snapping pics for Instagram, calling Lydia her hero sis. It's loud, warm, messy, everything Lydia's ever wanted in a family. For a while, it's damn near perfect. They're working long hours, sure, but they're building something. At night, they collapse into bed, too tired to talk much, but Ethan'll still pull her close, murmuring, "We did it, Lyd. You and me." She feels proud, not just of the restaurant, but of what it means for them all. Her savings are gone, yeah, but she's got this, a legacy, a future. Luna's even got a little perch by the kitchen pass-through, watching the chaos like she's part of the team. Lydia starts dreaming again. Maybe a second location or a cookbook. Ethan's talking big too, expansions, investors, a neon sign with their names on it. But then little things start creeping in. It's subtle at first, easy to brush off. Ethan's staying late at the restaurant more often, saying he's meeting suppliers or working the books. He comes home smelling like smoke and something floral. Not the kitchen kind either. Lydia catches it once, asks about it, and he laughs it off. "Some lady spilled her drink on me, babe. You know how it gets." She nods, lets it go, but it sticks in her head. Then there's the family. Beatrice stops calling her over for Sunday dinners, always with some excuse. "Oh, we're just resting up this week." Roland's texts dry up. No more random "how's my girl" messages. Sophie's still sweet, but she's dodging coffee dates, saying she's swamped with school. Lydia tells herself it's nothing. They're busy, grateful, just giving her space to shine at Bayou Bliss. Ethan's different, too. He's still out there smiling for the crowd, but at home he's distracted. Phone's always buzzing, and he'll step outside to take calls, keeping his voice low. One night she finds him on the porch, staring at nothing, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "You okay?" she asks, leaning on the doorframe. He flashes that grin, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, just tired. Business is good, right?" She wants to push, but he's up, kissing her forehead, steering her back inside. "Don't worry so much, Lyd. We're golden." She buys it, or tries to. Love's got a way of blinding you, making you see what you want instead of what's there. Looking back, she should have seen it. The late nights piling up, the way he'd dodge her questions about the restaurant's books. "I've got it handled. Don't stress." The family pulling away like they were in on something she wasn't. Even Luna starts acting weird, hissing at Ethan when he walks in, like she smells trouble on him. But Lydia's too deep in it, the grind, the glow of success, the hope that this is their happily ever after. She ignores the nag in her gut, the little voice whispering that something's off. New Orleans is a city of masks, after all, and Ethan's starting to wear one she doesn't recognize. The cracks are there, spreading slow and quiet, and soon they're gonna split wide open. Things were humming along at Bayou Bliss, or so Lydia thought. She's in her groove, the kitchen her kingdom, turning out plates that keep the line out the door, stretching down the block. Ethan's still the golden boy out front, shaking hands, pouring drinks, keeping the vibe alive. It's a Friday, late summer, the air thick with heat and the promise of a storm rolling in off the Gulf. Lydia's at the market early, picking out fresh okra and andouille for a special she's been dreaming up. She decides to swing home before heading to the restaurant, maybe surprise Ethan with a coffee, steal a quiet moment before the dinner rush. Big mistake. She unlocks the door to their little Marini shotgun, Luna darting out to greet her, purring like crazy. The house smells different, not the usual mix of spices and Ethan's cologne, but something sweeter, sharper. Perfume. Lydia's stomach twists, but she shakes it off. Maybe it's nothing. Then she hears voices from the living room, Ethan's laugh, low and easy, followed by a woman's giggle. She steps around the corner, and it's like the world tilts sideways. There he is, her husband, sprawled on their couch, the one they'd picked out together at a flea market, with his arm around some girl. She's young, maybe 25, all long legs and red lipstick, wearing a tight dress that screams money. Lydia freezes, her bag of groceries slipping, okra spilling across the floor. Ethan looks up, and for a split second there's shock in his eyes. Then it's gone, replaced by something cold, hard. "Lydia," he says, standing up slow, like he's got all the time in the world. "You're home early." The girl, Chloe, she'll learn later, smirks, crossing her arms, not even pretending to be uncomfortable. Lydia's voice shakes as she forces it out. "What the hell is this, Ethan?" He doesn't flinch, just steps closer, his face blank. "This is Chloe, my fiancé. We're done, Lyd. Divorce papers are already filed. You need to pack your stuff and go." It's like a punch to the gut. "Divorce? Fiancé?" Her head spinning, words tumbling out. "What are you talking about? We're married. This is our house. I built your damn restaurant." Ethan's laugh cuts her off. Sharp, cruel, nothing like the man she fell for. "Our house? Nah, it's in my name, always has been. And Bayou Bliss? That was my dream, you just paid for it. Chloe's my future now. You're, surplus. The word lands like a slap, and Chloe's smirk widens, her manicured hand flashing a diamond ring that makes Lydia's simple band look like a toy. Before she can process it, the front door swings open. Beatrice walks in, Roland and Sophie trailing behind, carrying boxes. Her boxes. Clothes, books, the apron she wore on opening night, all packed up like trash. Beatrice won't meet her eyes, just mutters, "We figured it'd be easier this way." Roland grunts, stacking stuff by the door. Sophie's the worst. She looks away, but there's a flicker of a smile, like she's enjoying this. Lydia's voice cracks. "You're in on this? After everything I did? I gave you everything. My money, my life, to save your asses." Beatrice finally looks up, her face stone cold. "You did what you wanted, Che. We're grateful, but Ethan's moving on. So should you." Ethan steps between them, arms crossed. "Get out, Lydia. We're done playing house." She's shaking now, tears burning her eyes, but she won't let them fall, not yet. "You used me," she whispers, staring at him. "All of you. That restaurant, my 220 grand. It was a con." He shrugs, smirking. "Call it what you want. Worked out for us." Chloe giggles again, and it's too much. Lydia lunges for her bag, but Beatrice grabs it first, tossing it to Sophie. "Take Luna, too," Ethan says casually, nodding at the cat circling Lydia's feet. "Chloe likes her." "That's the line." Lydia scoops Luna up, clutching her tight, the one thing they can't take. "You're monsters," she spits, voice breaking. "Every one of you." They laugh, all of them. A low, mocking sound that follows her as she stumbles out the door. Ethan calls after her, "Don't make a scene, Lyd, it's over." The door slams shut, and she's standing in the humid night, groceries scattered behind her, Luna trembling in her arms. 3 years of marriage, every penny she had gone in 10 minutes flat. She crashes at Tara's place that night, a tiny apartment above a bar in the Bywater. Tara's pissed. "I told you he was shady." But Lydia can't hear it. She's numb, replaying it all. Ethan's cold eyes, Chloe's smirk, the family she thought loved her laughing as she fell apart. She cries herself out on Tara's couch, Luna curled up beside her, the only piece of home she's got left. Her phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. Sorry it had to be this way. Good luck. She deletes it, hands shaking. They planned this. Used her like a damn ATM, then tossed her out when the cash ran dry. The storm hits around midnight, rain pounding the roof, lightning cracking the sky. Lydia stares out the window, anger simmering under the hurt. She doesn't know it yet, but something's waking up. Something old, something tied to the blood in her veins. New Orleans doesn't let betrayal slide easy, and neither does whatever's stirring in the shadows. Ethan thinks he's won, but he's about to find out what happens when you cross the wrong woman in a city that never forgets. Lydia's world's in pieces after that night, but she's not the only one about to feel the ground shake. A week's passed since Ethan kicked her out, and she's crashing at Tara's, scraping by on leftovers and fury. She's avoiding Bayou Bliss like the plague, can't even look at the street it's on without feeling sick. Meanwhile, Ethan's living it up, or so he thinks. Chloe's moved into the Marini house, strutting around like she owns it, and Bayou Bliss is still pulling crap. But down in the quarter, something's brewing, and it ain't gumbo. It starts small. One night, a waiter at the restaurant texts Tara. Yeah, they've got mutual friends, saying weird stuff's happening. Glasses sliding off tables when no one's near, lights flickering like a storm's inside the walls. Lydia hears it secondhand, shrugs it off, probably just Ethan being sloppy with maintenance. But then it ramps up. A cook quits after a knife flies across the kitchen, embedding itself in the wall an inch from his hand. Customers start whispering. "Feels off in there," they say, leaving half-eaten plates and lousy tips. Ethan brushes it off, tells everyone it's old pipes, bad wiring, whatever. He's too busy playing king with Chloe to care. Then the markings show up. One morning, the hostess opens up and screams the brick walls are covered in these jagged, spiraling symbols, scratched deep, like someone took a chisel to them overnight. They're not random. There's a pattern, something old and angry about them. Ethan tries to paint over it, but by noon, they're back, darker, spreading like vines. That night, he's closing up alone, and he hears it, a low scratching coming from everywhere and nowhere. He spins around, heart pounding, but the place is empty. Then a chair slides across the floor, slow and deliberate, stopping right in front of him. He bolts, doesn't even lock the door. It doesn't stop there. Ethan starts waking up from nightmares, shadowy figures chanting his name, accusing him of theft, betrayal. He's sweating through sheets, Chloe whining about how he's no fun anymore. Then one morning he looks in the mirror and freezes. Those same symbols from the walls are on his arms, faint at first, like tattoos he never got. They itch, burn, and every day they spread up his neck, across his chest. He's freaking out, popping pills to sleep, but it's no use. The restaurant's a mess too. Tables flipping over, the stove flaring up on its own. Customers ditch it fast. Words out, it's cursed. Beaches calls Lydia a week later, voice shaking. "Something's wrong, Chair. Ethan's sick, real sick. We need you." Lydia's at Tara's, staring at her phone, tempted to hang up. "You threw me out," she snaps. "Laughed while you did it. Why should I care?" Beatrice begs. "Please, just come see. It's not natural, those marks, the noises. We think it's you." Lydia laughs, bitter as hell. "Me? You're insane," but she can't shake it. The way Beatrice's voice cracks, the desperation. Against every ounce of sense, she heads to Bayou Bliss that night, Luna in a carrier, ready to tell them all to shove it. She walks in, and it's a disaster. Chairs smashed, walls gouged with those symbols, a smell like burnt metal hanging heavy. Ethan slumped at the bar, pale, the markings creeping up his face now. Beatrice and Roland are there, clutching each other, Sophie pacing like a trapped animal. "Look at him," Beatrice cries, pointing. "This started after you left." Ethan lifts his head, eyes hollow. "Lydia, help me. It's eating me alive." She steps back, heart racing. "I didn't do this. You did this to yourselves." But something's nagging at her. Those symbols feel familiar, like echoes from stories her Aunt May used to tell, old Cajun tales about justice and blood. She ditches them, heads straight to Tante Rose, this wiry old woman who runs a botanica in Tremé. Rose takes one look at her, at the silver charm bracelet Lydia's worn since she was a kid, a gift from May, and nods. "Knew your aunt, knew her power. You've got it too, girl. Cajun blood, deep and strong. These marks, they're a curse, tied to betrayal." Lydia's skeptical. "I'm no witch." Rose smirks, lighting a candle. "Don't gotta be. Your line's got history, and it's tangled with his." Here's the twist. Rose pulls out a dusty book, flips to a page about a woman named Celeste, a healer in the 1800s. She loved a man from a rich Creole family, Ethan's ancestors. They used her, stole her land, left her to die broken. Celeste cursed them. "Any who wrong my blood will pay, generation after generation." Lydia stares, chills running down her spine. "You're saying I'm her kin?" Rose nods. "And he's theirs." "You gave everything. They betrayed you, woke the old magic up. It's not you doing it, Cher. It's her, through you." Lydia's reeling. She didn't ask for this, doesn't even believe half of it, but the bracelet on her wrist feels warm, alive. Ethan's family staring at her like she's the devil, begging her to fix it. She walks out, head spinning, Luna purring against her chest. She didn't start this fire, but it's burning now, and it's coming for them all. Lydia's head's a mess after Tante Rose drops that bombshell. She's walking back to Tara's through the Tremé, the night sticky and quiet except for the hum of cicadas and Luna's soft purrs from her carrier. Her whole life she thought those old Cajun stories from Aunt May were just fairy tales, spooky bedtime stuff about spirits and justice. Now she's got this bracelet pulsing against her wrist, and Ethan's falling apart with marks she might have unleashed without even knowing. She doesn't want this power, doesn't want their begging, but it's clawing at her anyway. Bayou Bliss is a ghost town now. Word spread. It's cursed, haunted, whatever you want to call it. Ethan's a wreck too. Calls from Beatrice turn into hourly pleas. He won't eat, won't sleep, just stares at the walls. Lydia blocks the number, but Sophie shows up at Tara's one night, eyes red, banging on the door. "Please, Lyd, he's dying. We'll give you anything. Money, the restaurant, whatever." Tara shoos her off. But Lydia's gut twists. She hates them, every damn one of them. But she can't shake the feeling she's tied to this chaos. If Celeste's curse is real, if it's in her blood, she's gotta face it. She heads back to the restaurant the next evening, storm clouds rolling in, the air electric. The place looks like a war zone, windows cracked, tables splintered, those symbols everywhere glowing faintly in the dim light. Ethan's sprawled on the floor by the bar, shirt off, the markings snaking across his torso like black vines. He's gaunt, eyes sunken, muttering nonsense. Beatrice and Roland huddle in a corner, praying in French, while Sophie's pacing, clutching her phone. They all freeze when Lydia walks in, Luna hissing at her side. You came, Ethan croaks, dragging himself up. Make it stop, Lyd. I'll fix it, I swear. She stares at him, the man she loved, now a stranger begging at her feet. Fix it? She snaps. You took everything, my money, my home, my trust, and threw me out like garbage. You don't get to beg now. Beatrice steps forward, hands clasped. We were wrong, Chair. We'll pay you back, every cent. Lydia laughs, sharp and cold. Too late for that. But her bracelet's burning now, and those symbols on the walls pulse, like they're listening. She sits Ethan down, voice steady. Tell me the truth, all of it. He spills it, tears streaming. We planned it from the start. Mom found out you had money, pushed me to lock you in. Chloe was waiting, richer, better connections. I didn't want to hurt you, but they convinced me you were disposable. Sophie sobs. I didn't want to, Lyd, I swear. But Lydia's done with excuses. She feels it then, a rage so deep it's ancient, humming through her veins, tying her to Celeste's pain. She pulls out the herb pouch Tante Rose gave her, sage, bay leaf, something bitter smelling, and lights it in a cracked coffee mug. Smoke curls up, thick and sweet, wrapping around them. I'm not doing this for you, she says, staring Ethan down. I'm doing it for me. Because I won't let your betrayal define me. She closes her eyes, lets it all out, the hurt, the humiliation, the nights she cried herself raw. You used me, broke me, laughed while I fell. But I'm done carrying that. I release it, not because you deserve mercy, but because I deserve peace. The smoke hits the walls and the symbols shimmer, softening like melting wax. Ethan gasps, back arching, the marks on his skin fading, not gone, but lighter, like scars. The air shifts, heavy and charged, then stills. Lydia feels it lift, that dark weight she's been hauling since the betrayal. Her bracelet cools, a quiet calm settling in her chest. Ethan collapses, breathing hard. Thank you, he whispers, but she cuts him off. Don't. This doesn't erase what you did. She turns to leave, but the building groans, a deep guttural sound. The bar cracks in half, wood splintering like it's alive. A beam crashes down, missing Ethan by inches. Beatrice screams. What's happening? Lydia pauses at the door, glancing back. That's not me anymore. That's your mess to live with. She walks out, Luna trotting beside her as the restaurant shutters behind her. Not collapsing, not yet, but broken beyond repair. Celeste's curse might have eased on Ethan, but it's not done with Bayou bliss. It's a shell now, a tomb for their greed. Lydia breathes deep, the storm breaking overhead, rain washing the night clean. She's free, not from the past, but from its grip. Ethan's alive, but he's got nothing left to stand on, and that's enough for now. The rain's still falling as Lydia walks away from Bayou Bliss that night, Luna tucked close, her steps steady despite the chaos she's leaving behind. The restaurant's a wreck, not her problem anymore. Ethan's alive, sure, but he's got nothing left to hold on to, and that's just as enough. She heads back to Tara's, soaked to the bone, but there's a lightness in her chest she hasn't felt in months. It's over not just the marriage, but the weight of their betrayal. She's done letting it drag her down. Weeks pass, and Lydia starts piecing herself back together. She lands a gig at a tiny Creole spa in the Bywater, no fancy title, just her and a stove, cooking for a handful of regulars who don't care about drama, just good food. The pay's decent, and she saves every dime, renting a one-room place above a bakery on St. Claude. It's small, peeling paint, a leaky faucet, but it's hers. Luna claims the windowsill, watching the streetcars rattle by, and Lydia starts filling the space with bits of herself. A second-hand table she sands down, a rug from a flea market, a pot of herbs on the counter. It smells like yeast from downstairs and hope from within. Bayou Bliss is gone for good. Word spreads it collapsed, not all at once, but piece by piece, like it couldn't hold its own lies anymore. Ethan tries selling it, but no one bites. Too many stories about flickering lights and cold spots. Last she hears, he's left town. Some say he's washing dishes in Baton Rouge. Others swear he's tending bar in Mobile. Beatrice and Roland move in with cousins upstate, their big Garden District house foreclosed after all. Sophie's in Atlanta, working retail, texting Lydia once to say, "I'm sorry," before going quiet. Chloe? Vanished fast, probably chasing the next big score. Lydia doesn't care enough to wonder. She's rebuilding, slow but sure. Tara's her rock. Shows up with cheap wine and takeout, laughing about how Ethan screwed himself harder than he screwed you. One night on her little balcony, Tara squints at her. "You're different, Lyd. Lighter. Like you shed something." Lydia nods, swirling her glass. "Yeah, not just him, the me who let him in too deep. I'm done bending for people who don't deserve it." Tante Rose becomes a regular stop, too. Every Saturday, Lydia's at the Botanica, sitting among candles and jars, learning about Celeste and the blood she carries. Rose traces the lines on her palm one day, voice low. "You've got her strength, Jer. Justice runs in you. Not to hurt, but to balance. Use it wise." Lydia takes it in, studying the symbols she saw on those walls, tying them to stories of her ancestors, healers, seers, women who didn't break. She's no witch, but she's starting to believe there's power in her, quiet and steady. Work picks up too. The Creole joint loves her, and after a few months they bump her to head chef. She's got a tiny crew now, a menu she's proud of, and a paycheck that's rebuilding her savings bit by bit. Ethan sends money once, a random $5,000 check with "I'm sorry" scrawled on it. She cashes it, not out of forgiveness, but because it's hers by right. Uses it to buy a beat-up Vespa. Zips through the quarter with Luna in a basket, wind in her hair, free. One evening, she's walking Luna by the river, the sun dipping low, painting the water gold. Her bracelet catches the light, and she thinks of Celeste, not with fear, but gratitude. "I won't let them dim me again," she whispers, a promise to herself. The city hums around her, horns blaring, kids laughing, the smell of fried dough in the air. Ethan's gone, his family scattered, but Lydia's still here, standing tall. Sometimes revenge isn't what you do, it's what they lose when you rise. And as the stars blink on over New Orleans, she knows she's just getting started.